All right, welcome everybody to our September Zero Waste Task Force meeting. Feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat, provide your name, your organization, and your location. And then, of course, my phone rings right at this very moment. Hold on one second. Oh, okay. All right, so our icebreaker for tonight is, what is your favorite thing about fall? So please do share. All right, next slide, please, Annika. All right, so I just want to welcome everyone here tonight for our youth-focused Zero Waste Task Force meeting. I'm really excited to hear from these really dedicated and inspiring young people about the work that they are doing to make our environment and our planet more livable for everybody. I did want to start out with just a couple of updates. As many of you know, on Monday, we had a bunch of WASS folks turn out, some in person, some online, some sending in comments via email to our county Board of Legislators meeting. We were very successful last year in getting $90,000 earmarked in the 2024 budget for a waste reduction study. However, we haven't gotten any updates on it. And we've actually kind of had radio silence from the county regarding the progress on that. And so we showed up in force to educate our captive audience of legislators about the issues surrounding the trash incinerator in Peekskill and the need for Westchester County to act and prepare for a more just and sustainable solution to our waste. And I think we were successful, because shortly after I sent out the e-blast encouraging people to turn out, I did hear from Peter McCart, the director of the county's Office of Sustainability, that they would be reaching out very soon to schedule a meeting for October. So the public pressure and knowing that we're paying attention to this issue and we're not giving up is really effective. So hopefully they will follow through on that. We'll have that meeting, get an update, and I'll have more information for you during our October task force meeting. But for everyone who attended in person, sent an email, participated online, it worked, they heard us, and thank you for helping us keep the pressure on. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Annika Bott, who has been really awesome working with WASS this summer as an intern. And a big part of her time was spent putting this task force meeting together to showcase young people that are doing work. And I would say, I want to say in Westchester County, but you'll notice the first one is Greenwich Composting Project. Why does that matter? Because Wheelabrator Peekskill does burn garbage from Greenwich, Connecticut as well. So we are super grateful to all the folks in Greenwich that are working really hard to reduce the amount of waste they send here. So with that, Annika, thank you for your time and efforts this summer. Take it away.
Thank you, Courtney. So yeah, I think first slide actually is an introduction of WASS, or Westchester Alliance for Sustainable Solutions, if you already don't know what we do. So basically our main goal is shutting down the Westchester incinerator called Wheelabrator, which is run by Wind Waste Innovations, and just to overall turn the county towards zero waste. So that's been the overall goal. There have been many initiatives, events, and one of the main key events of WASS is having these monthly zero waste task force meetings, which are usually the first Wednesday of the month, not in this case. But nonetheless, we're so excited to have these main 4 student groups talk about some really cool waste-oriented projects, and all coming from towns that contribute waste to the incinerator. So it's really exciting to hear their voices. So we'll take it away with Greenwich Composting. So Miriam and Noah, you guys can take it away. Yeah.
Okay, hi everybody. We're excited to be here today with you and to share with you our journey thus far and our plans for the future as Greenwich Composting actually approaches its 1-year anniversary. We also will definitely welcome any questions and feedback that anyone may have. So this project is managed by myself, Noah Chass, who will be speaking shortly, and Addison Toll, who is not able to join us tonight, but is an essential part of our group. So why start a local community initiative? This country alone produces 268 million tons of waste a year, and of which 140 million tons goes into landfill. With the average American household tossing 4.5 pounds of waste per day, this is a shocking statistic, and we thought, what better way to tackle this than on the local level? So we started this initiative as high school sophomores to educate ourselves and to share our knowledge with our community and try to make a real difference. Our hope is that our initiative will be adopted by other communities and that that Greenwich Composting Project will be handed down to freshmen at Greenwich High School for years to come. We also hope that one day the government comes up with a scalable and sustainable solution to deal with excessive levels of landfill waste. So our project has already made a difference. As you'll see on this slide, we have 16 local households participating. And these 16 households have diverted close to 6,000 pounds of kitchen waste from landfill, which is the equivalent of 4.5 cubic yards. Could you please go to the next slide? Thank you. So how did we get going? We started by researching other local composting schemes. We then learned about composting on a larger scale and completed a composting course. Noah and I both come from families who composted just among our families. So we kind of had to educate ourselves on how to do it with a few more households because we had so much more. We then researched potential sites, and then we decided just to jump in and that we would figure it out as we went. So we set up a website and a WhatsApp group for communication. And then we gave each household a bin with a list of what kitchen scraps could be included. We pick up once a week and mix all the kitchen scraps with carbon, which means we include leaves, wood chip, old egg cartons, as well as other cardboard and shredded newspaper. We have to adjust our recipe over the months to make sure that the balance is right for optimum composting. Again, this has largely been done by trial and error. So currently we are looking to expand, and to make this logistically easier, we now have a drop-off option for our households. So we've only been doing this for 3 weeks, but so far the response has been very positive. Could you please go to the next slide? So we have been learning as we go, and we deal with each problem as it arises. Overcoming some problems required expertise from the composting community. For example, our piles not heating sufficiently. Others were unexpected. For instance, the garbage company, which picked up on the same day as us, started picking up what households left out for us. So that took a while to figure out. There are also some teething issues. For instance, some houses had a difficult time adjusting their habits. But with positive feedback and encouragement, all of our households are now all in with their composting efforts. We were delighted to learn that one of our households who left the community to move to Westport now composts in her new home. She told us that since our project, she can't bring herself to throw vegetable scraps into landfill. This is really the change that we're trying to bring about. Problems will always arise when trying something new, but we are so fortunate to have such support from our community. We belong to the Community Composting Coalition, which offers a huge forum of advice. In addition, Waste Free Greenwich, who will be speaking later, have given us a huge amount of support and encouragement. So with all of this support and our own research, every problem has been overcome. So now I'll hand over to Noah, who will talk you through our process further, and as well as our goals.
Next slide, please. Okay, so this is essentially a huge collage of photos from our whole composting process. There are a lot of photos, but there are specifically 5 photos that I want to highlight. The first one is in the bottom left area, which is a photo of myself, Miriam, and Addison, where we are collecting kitchen scraps from one of our participating households. We have been doing a loop in the area or in the neighborhood, going to each house to collect their kitchen scraps from the bins which we've provided them. This is something that we hope to change, as Miriam was touching on, with the households dropping off their kitchen scraps to us, rather than spending the 30 to 40 minutes each time going around to each house. It would just be a lot more efficient and especially helpful as we plan to add more houses to the project. Another photo I wanted to touch on is the circular mesh shown in the photo in the top middle. This is what we use to contain our compost as it begins to break down into finished compost. This setup helps reduce the surface area, which in turn then helps to heat up the compost, which breaks the kitchen scraps down faster. As the two middle photos show, we compost during the winter as well, so maintaining as hot a temperature as possible is extremely important. The photo on the right in the middle shows some radishes that we grew using some finished compost. And to test our finished compost, we used radish seeds, which are just a quick and cheap way to test the quality of the finished compost. The last photo right above this in the top right shows some brown bins. This is what we use. This is where we drop off the kitchen scraps that we cannot compost for our specific style of composting. For example, like some of these things are poultry, fish, and bones. Waste Free Greenwich organizes this each week, and we encourage our households to bring those other scraps to their two locations instead of just throwing them away. Next slide, please. Thank you. So our main goals is just to grow our community. We want to get other communities involved. We want to spread the word on how rewarding composting can be, and just like inspire younger people. And then we also want to promote compost over chemical fertilizers. And then overall, we just want to educate on how composting not only reduces landfill volume, but also helps prevent harmful greenhouse gas emissions, which we track on on our website, and so that people can see an update every single time we do a pickup. Next slide, please. And this is just like a visual. It's just a simple way of showing what we hope to achieve and inspire others to do for the future. And I'll just turn it back to Miriam.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for listening. As Noah said before, we really do, one of our goals is to inspire other people to start something similar. So if anyone knows someone who would like to start a similar scheme, we would love to help in any way we can, and basically give people the knowledge that we've gathered since starting this. For instance, I have a friend, and I told her what I was doing, and she lives in Greenwich, but she lives on the other side of Greenwich, and she's started to talk to me about what she can do and how she can start something similar in her neighborhood. And so yeah, you can also contact us through our website, and just kind of see what we're up to at greenwichcompostingproject.com, if anyone's interested. But yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a great start for sure. Actually, if you guys can put in your Gmails and even the link to your website in the chat, that would be great, for just viewers to see and ask questions. And yeah. I say now we move on to Waste Free Greenwich, one of the organizations helping them. So.
All right. So hi there, guys. I'm Ben. I've been working and volunteering and interning with Waste Free Greenwich for almost 3 years now. It'll be 3 years here in the fall. And so I'm super excited to come here and help spread the word and kind of talk about us and what our mission is and what our goal is and what we do as one of the prominent waste reduction organizations in Greenwich. So all right, you want to flip the slide then? I'm gonna flip past that one. I think that we got. All right, so we were founded in 2019, and we became a 501c3 nonprofit in 2023. We were founded with the mission to engage, educate, and empower the Greenwich community to waste less through their prevention, recycling, and diversion. And we are firm on our principle of the 6 R's, which are refuse, reduce, reuse, repair, recycle, and rot. And to fulfill our mission, Waste Free Greenwich conducts outreach and education through presentations, film screenings, panel discussions, author talks, and signature events and programs. All right, flip through. So this is about a Greenwich food scrap and recycling program. So many of our efforts are focused on reducing wasted food, which makes up over 22% of our municipal solid waste here in Greenwich. Waste Free Greenwich has helped start and support the voluntary food scrap recycling program for our residents. We have our main drop off at our transfer station, and we have 2 satellite locations as well for that waste and compost drop off. And we've since June of 2020, we've diverted over 480,000 pounds of waste and food waste to compost. And about 7% of the households in a community participate, which is really something in a large community like Greenwich. All right. All right. So we've supported waste reduction in public and private schools through programming, presentations, and other outreach. So that means composting, recycling efforts in everything from the elementary school all the way up to the high school. We've developed a zero waste schools program that has also cut down lunch trash by 45% by our numbers. So, all right, you can kind of elaborate that. Next slide. So last year we helped 6 public elementary schools adopt food scrap recycling, raising the diversion to 74% on average. Some of our results, we have eliminated 62,614 pounds of trash annually. We've composted 32,616 pounds annually, and we have then 18 pounds of wasted food per student saved and diverted to compost annually. We've launched at 6 Greenwich Public School elementary schools in the year 2023 and 24 as well, of the 13, and some of them have already been participating since then. So, all right, you want to go down to the next slide? So, Great Pumpkin Rescue is a super fun event that we run in the fall after Halloween. This is actually how I originally got involved in Waste Free Greenwich 3 years ago. This is one of our signature events. Last year, we collected 4,000 pounds of pumpkins for composting, and there's all sorts of games there, and it's a family event. You can see we have tons of different activities. We have more games than just this, but we have all the kids, we get them in on it, and we have them coming and recycling. And then we have one of the stations that's my favorite is we have our pumpkin smash. So we take the pumpkins and we let the kids come in, they can smash it, and they get really into the composting and the reducing of the waste created from these pumpkins, and they get to smash them, and then we clean them up and we compost all the pumpkin bits. So that's really fun. All right.
Oh, that is my bad. Sorry. Oh,
Oh, no
sorry.
worries.
Is that the end of it? I think there's one more
Yeah,
slide.
that was the end of it. I'm just gonna get out of present.
I didn't talk about the Rethink Waste Fair. Either way,
Ooh,
that's
yeah.
another event we
I'm
have
gonna
in the
stop.
spring.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing and then reshare, but you can continue talking, please.
Okay, well, I'll talk about I don't think we need the slide. This is the last one. So this is our other signature event in the spring, and we actually have some people on the call who I remember, at least one from the Rethink Waste Fair last year. And it's a free fair with we have local vendors and organizational exhibits all over come in and display their stands and spread their own message. And we have also the recycling and donation drive where people can come and take out all their waste from the winter or just built up over years and years. The first selection, Fred Camillo presents Earth Day Proclamation, and Sustainability Committee gives the Sustainability Awards to residents. And this year, the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection presented the Governor's Food Waste Proclamation to kick off the Connecticut Food Waste Prevention Week as well. So there's tons of stuff going on. It's a really fun event. If you can ever come out there, it's really great for residents, and we get tons of garbage too that we divert, and a lot of it is electronic garbage that we can divert from incineration, which is really, really helpful as well. All right, that's about it.
Yeah, thank you. Great. Yeah, sorry about my little slideshow fiasco.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
now,
no problem. It's fine.
now we're gonna move on to Ilaria and Michael for EcoTouch. So.
Hi, I'm Ilaria. And my partner is Michael, and we're students at Rye Country Day. And our project is EcoTouch, which is a generative AI machine that can basically answer questions regarding climate change. So next slide, please. Oh, and here's just an image of EcoTouch. And so basically our main problem that we noticed was that with something that's like obviously as detrimental as and global as climate change, something that's really important is information, because if you can have a goal, you can have awareness, but if you don't have information and if you don't really understand how to help, then you're just going blind without a plan to like fix climate change. So because of that, in Rye, we also noticed a lack of interest and resources for personalized conversations about climate change, and a lack of understanding of local ecosystems and ways to help. We realized that something had to be done so that people would actually understand how to help, that they would be engaged in their local environment, decrease unsustainable practices, and also decrease misinformation. So next slide, please. Our solution for that is EcoTouch, which uses generative AI to provide convenient and personalized responses to carry conversations on with its users about the environment. And because of this, technology like EcoTouch can empower local citizens to make informed choices so that they can have a more eco-conscious society, and which leads to sustainable action. Next slide, please.
Hi, so as Lauria said, unfortunately, we don't have the actual device, but I'll just explain how it works briefly. So basically, the device is equipped with a microphone and speaker, and the microphone records audio when you press the button on top, and it'll transcribe it into text, which is then fed into an AI model, and then the output is turned into more audio, which is then played through the speaker. And all of the questions are recorded, and we analyze the questions to see what are people lacking information of and what sustainability programs need to be created and awareness programs. Next slide, please. So EcoTouch is unique because it's completely biodegradable and 3D printed. It's super easy to make. To ensure privacy, we made sure that it only records when the button is held. So it's not constantly listening like something like Siri or Alexa. And there's a little circuit inside of it which performs voice to text and acts as the medium between GPT and like the electronics inside. Next slide, please. And this is on the technology. So for speech to text, we used this speech to text model, which is run completely on the device. And we optimized it so it would understand different age groups better. So we presented to a whole lot of people, as young as kindergarten to as old as adults. And it could understand the kindergartners because we set it to the model, which was trained on like kindergartners speaking. And the text generation works similarly. It's trained on multiple fine-tuned versions of GPT-4, and it's customized to like the learner's grade level. So depending on where we had it set up, we would change the lexile and the way it would speak to you. And the text-to-speech is powered by OpenAI, and there's different tones that it speaks in, so it can engage with different learners. Next slide, please.
So now as for like the actual statistics and how EcoTouch helped, through our presentations and strategic placement around the school, we calculated that it reached around 5/6 of the student body, and for the presentations, we presented at important events where there were quite a few people there, such as Wildcats Around the World, which we presented to environmentally interested high schoolers and lower school community time. And through these events, we reached a large population to educate users and demonstrate environmental innovations. And then for the results, we measured that there were over 1,000 questions asked to EcoTouch. And so we also had engagement with the lower school, and we had future plans to build more devices for classrooms so that teachers could actively integrate it into their curriculum. And we also noticed that there was less trash and recycling bins near EcoTouch. Next slide, please. So here are just some pictures of all the things that we did. On the left-hand side, there's Michael and I presenting at the Wildcats Around the World fair the Wildcats Around the World meeting for the high school. And then on the right is when we visited a few lower school science classes, showed them EcoTouch, kind of inspired them with environmental innovations. And then not pictured is something that we did last year. In the April of 2024, we competed in the Greenlight Award for Bedford 2030. And we presented, actually Annika also presented, I remember, and we tied for a second place. So that was a really nice experience. Next slide, please.
And just a thanks to everyone who was able to make the project happen, and feel free to contact us. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. As someone who's seen EcoTouch in action, answering questions in English and Spanish, it's super cool. It's very cool. So now to cap off the student presenters, we have Leo presenting sustainable design. So take it away.
Hi everyone, my name's Leo Roth. I'm co-president of the Enviro Club at RCDS with Annika. And I also participate in Greenlight with Ilaria and Michael. So I have one big project I want to share and also another small one, both focusing on the idea of sustainability and design. Next slide. Next slide. So the guiding question I've used in my design process is, how can I design for a more sustainable, just, healthy, equitable, and more regenerative future? So at RCDS, Right Country Day, I've been able to do this independent study program where I worked in our school's makerspace, as well as with our biology and environmental science teachers, to essentially create my own projects outside of class, focusing on sustainable design. At the top, I had an essay I titled called Material Ecologies and Biotech Architectures. Really focusing on the idea of the life cycles of the materials we use in design and how those interact with the environment across different scales, from the product scale to the architectural or city scale. And really focusing on the idea of place-based design, so sort of using local or vernacular materials to help solve specific problems that are very related to the specific environment that we live in. Next slide. So I don't really have an intro slide for this project, but over the course of the year, I built this project called Pollination. So Pollination is designed as an intervention into a very unsustainable negative feedback loop. It's the novel mechanism for rewilding urban environments. So it's a synthetic flower that's made from an algae-based biopolymer that's meant to support pollinators while it's literally sowing the seeds for a greener future. In cities, urban pollinators are sort of the glue that holds everything together. Because everything is so connected in ecological networks, as urban pollinators have been declining in the past 40 years, it's really posing a massive threat to urban areas, and the benefits of having green space in urban areas are impossibly large. So having these urban pollinators saved can really help that. And also I wanted to integrate more of the human-centric solutions. So by bringing green space into cities, it also improves mental and physical health for those who live in cities. I really wanted to sort of, I guess, reverse urban decay. by linking these communities with access to green space. So in the winter, last year, I actually was able to compete in this design sprint with this organization called Owl of Future that focused on biomaterials for post-petroleum future. And I ended up actually winning it. So they're an international competition organization. We're currently just a tiny startup based in Berlin, but I was able to present it to the professionals in the industry, and they gave me great feedback that allowed me to sort of take it to the next level. And I actually ended up interning for them over the summer. They're now called Naviri.io. They're an educational technology platform that has these design sprints to help other people build similar projects like this. Their next one is actually based on using algae to build more regenerative products. So that's my plug for them. So next slide, please. So in just the beginning of summer in early June, I was able to participate in this competition called the Biodesign Challenge. They're an international organization that it's a network of teachers in college classrooms that teach all these classes on the intersection of biology and design. So really linking like biotech and art and environment and all of that. So I was able to go into their summit at New York City for 2 days in the beginning of the summer, where I was able to present my project first at Parsons, the new school in the city. And then I actually made it as one of the 8 finalists to make it to the next round. I was the only high school student to make it to that round, where I was actually able to present my project at the MoMA in front of like a massive audience. So that was a great experience. I had also been paired with a mentor, this material scientist who worked in the city who was super helpful to me. And I ended up being able to prototype my design in our school's makerspace. I have some of the renderings and prototypes on that left, which is my poster I made. A little bit more about the project itself. Essentially, it would be used as there's 3 components. There is the flower itself, which is made from a biodegradable polymer. So once you plant it, there is artificial pollen in the sort of center of the top area, which I call sea pollen, which is just like a very bad pun on bee pollen, which is made from citrus food waste, and that sort of provides an instant life support to urban pollinators. And once the flower gets embedded into the soil, it'll eventually biodegrade after about 6 months, and in its stem there are native seeds, so that once it biodegrades, it fertilizes the soil, and then actual plants can grow in its place. So it's really focusing on the idea of transforming decay into growth across scales, from like the literal project scale to the community scale of regrowing entire urban areas. That's it for pollination, I guess. So next slide. And then another project that I developed this summer, much less like further along, is mycomesh. This was from a 2-week internship I did at Terraform One, which is the sustainable architecture company in New York City, at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. So this is very much inspired by that design ideology of like place-based design. I did this in the summer, and walking around the Brooklyn Navy Yard, it is insanely hot. It went to like 110 degrees some days, and it's just noisy and like super industrial. So our challenge was to sort of design something to help fix one of those problems. So I designed a modular facade system made out of mycelium, which I called mycomesh. And this mycelium would have been grown from textile waste and coffee grounds. So it'd really be focusing on symbiosis between humans and the buildings and the entire community. The mycelium itself can improve noise pollution. It reduces the urban heat island effect, which is like this really big problem in cities, as well as noise pollution. And it's also sort of provides scaffolding for other biodiversity in the city. So I was able to eventually make this prototype. On the right, there's actually this mycelium facade panel I made. So mycelium is essentially the root structure of mushrooms. And it's become this like massive new material in the biodesign field just because of all this like qualities, and it can be made into levers and everything you can imagine. So I was really excited to be able to experiment with that material. And yeah, that's sort of all I have. So thank you. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to answer.
Yeah, thank you so much, Leo. And those are all our presenters. So thank you so much. I know it's a school night, so it's really difficult, but thank you so much for getting out and sharing your very cool and unique organizations and projects. It's definitely reassuring to see student voices from all areas, both Westchester, Fairfield County, acting against waste and waste management. So thank you so much. Yeah. And if you haven't done so, you can put in your emails, websites, etc., in the chat below. So yeah, I think next section is going on to just discussion and Q&A. So if you want to ask any of the presenters any questions live right now, that would be the time. So yeah, I think I'll stop screen sharing for this one.
So I had a question, which is, and you don't all have to answer it, however you guys feel like, but I'm just wondering, it seems like you've interacted with young people and with grown-ups, quote unquote, and I'm just wondering, like, do you find that young people are more enthusiastic about participating than elders, or has everyone you've encountered been equally engaged? Like who are the groups different in how they respond to your messaging?
I think I can take some of that one because I've kind of been on the ground and we get tons of kids. We love to see always. It's great to see all these really young kids come out. It's really great when their parents bring them out. And it's really great for them to get involved in the messaging. We always try and push a bit of the message of composting and of waste reduction to kids whenever they show up. And, you could really try and include all the young people, the next generation into this journey. And we have all sorts of like Pumpkin Rescue is one of my favorite events because there's so many games, there's so many different activities and so many different things for kids to do, all from elementary, middle school, and really get involved in the process. So they have always been very receptive to the messaging. It's always really cool to see them come out here and get involved in reducing waste.
Great. So there's a question for the EcoTouch team from Jackson. Are there any concerns about the sustainability regarding using OpenAI and like the computational costs and energy for that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to answer that. OpenAI, I'm like 99% sure is powered by like Microsoft Azure, which is like their processing service, which is carbon neutral. But we are currently investigating alternate solutions and looking at training locally ran AIs and stuff like that. So we definitely have it in mind, but we're still very early in our project.
It's great that you've already given that thought. A question from Joanne. Do the schools that are involved with the composting use reusable trays and silverware, etc.? So is the waste just primarily food waste, or are they using all disposables?
So it's been quite a while since I've been in middle elementary school. But it always is the lower schools that always seem to have some of the more intimate sustainability practices. So the elementary schools, generally it's easier to kind of coordinate in elementary school of a couple hundred kids, and only maybe like 50, 60 kids at lunch at a time, who might be getting lunch and getting their trays. Whereas at the high school, it's very hard to get people involved, but they have made major strides in the ability to actually, in the case of like middle schools, really pushing composting in the middle schools to in Eastern, Western, Central to make sure if they are using non-reusable paper and disposable trays, to make sure that they are of a paper, a compostable material. And in that case, they can, and push in the composting so they can actually turn it into something useful. They can reduce waste in that way. So it's all baby steps. It's trying to make strides in here before you can actually get to an end goal, which would of course be to use these reusable trays in all the schools.
Great. There was a question, and Miriam, you answered it in the chat, but I was wondering if you could answer it so we have it recorded. So Lila had asked, how do you find a space to use for the composting? And do you have neighbors that complain about smells or traffic, etc.? And I really want you to answer it on the video, because this is something that comes up often, which is that people say like they don't want composting near their house or in their neighborhood because it's going to draw animals and it's going to stink like a dump and all of that. So can you give your answer verbally that you made in the chat about the smells, and if there's been any complaints from folks near your compost pile?
Yeah, definitely. So, our original plan was that in my neighborhood, there's actually a lot of Greenwich Land Trust property. So we reached out to them and we said, we kind of told them what our plan was. This was before we started. And we could use a small section of their land just to keep our piles on. And their original answer was no, because they had all these restrictions and it was just too complicated. So our plan as of right now is, once we're quite established now, but once if we have even more to show them, then we can go back to them and say, well, this is what we're doing, it's not attracting animals, and just kind of ask them to reconsider. But as of right now, we're using my backyard, which is actually proven very useful, very easy. Because as I said in the chat, I can go into my backyard after school and just turn the piles and aerate them, and it's very accessible. But so in terms of animals and the smell, so what we do is we have a certain like ratio that we add the kitchen scraps that we collect every week, and then we also include, like in Noah's family, they shred, if we ever collect newspapers, they shred the newspapers, and we'll then add that to the pile. We'll collect leaves, especially during this time of year, and we'll add those to the piles, shredded cardboard, anything like that. And that that keeps the pile at the correct ratio, so that it composts faster, but also it prevents any smell. Because if you have the right ratio, then it doesn't smell. The only time it smells is when you don't have enough browns in the pile, like so the browns of the cardboard and the newspaper. And then in terms of animals, we just make sure that at the end of the day we have like a thin layer of like newspaper or something on top, and then generally no animals ever really go digging through the pile. We've had it maybe once, but then we just made sure from then on that we were super careful about keeping everything covered with some leaves or some newspaper, and we haven't had any problems.
Great. Yeah, I have compost in my yard too, never animal problems. Sue, you have your hand raised.
Hi, congratulations to everybody. Thank you so much for sharing all your ideas. Our building is a composter site, so I wanted to ask Miriam about your project. First of all, wow, I'm really super impressed with how hard you put into that, how much work you put into it. We have 80 families in one building, and you can't imagine how many complaints I hear, mostly from older people who just find it a little too hard. But I was wanting to know why you didn't choose to support the Greenwich. I guess do they have curbside pickup for food scraps or not?
So one of the households that does it, she also does curbside pickup, but with that, I believe you have to pay. And so that it's hard enough for people to compost as it is. They don't like some people just find it's too much work to separate things. And then if on top of that you have to pay for it, we feel that people don't really, it's just too much for them. So when we started off, there was no charge. And then we provided every household with a fairly like attractive bin to kind of give them an incentive to have it in the house, whatever. And we gave them a list. And so we just kind of made it as easy as possible for them so that they were more incentivized to do it.
Okay, well, great that you're doing it. Do you don't accept the industrial type of compost like bones and meat and that? Does the city of Greenwich have other facilities for that? I think I heard that.
Yeah, so actually Waste Free Greenwich, they
Oh,
collect things like
right.
that. So I know my family, what we do is we can't we don't really have the capacity to compost the bones and the meat ourselves. Our piles just don't get hot enough.
Right.
So instead what we do is throughout the week, any like salad that has olive oil on it or any meat, anything like that, we keep it in a bin in our freezer. And then once every week or once every 2 weeks, we go, it's just 10 minutes from my house and we drop it in the bins for Waste Free Greenwich. And we hope that eventually we can get some of the households to do it with us to do that as well. But with just kind of just baby steps at the moment. Like we've just got all the households to adapt to not putting plastic and things like that in. So then hopefully everyone's getting really good at it now. So we're hoping that eventually we'll give them this option that, oh, you can go, it's just 5 minutes away and you could drop off all the rest of your food scraps. So you're really at the end of the week, all you're barely throwing away anything, which would be amazing.
Congratulations. I think you've done great.
Thank you.
All right, I think I had a question for Leo, and then we can go to Ruby, who had a question. Leo, I was just wondering if you could talk about with the sustainable design, is the idea that the raw material is cheaper or less intensive to make, or that it is more durable so you don't need to replace it, or when it wears out it can biodegrade easily, or all of the above? Like, can you just talk a little bit more about like what the goals are for those things?
Yeah, I probably should have mentioned that more in my discussion, but I think definitely all of the above. There's a lot of problems in the design industry. I mean, basically every like climate change problem I think it's every like massive environmental problem is a design problem. I would say the plastic pollution problem is because we have products made from plastic that aren't biodegradable. Um, so much of our materials that we use have these like linear life cycles where we essentially just use them and then we throw them away right after. But if we can sort of move towards the more circular economy model, where we have these products that are either made so that they can be recycled, or ideally they could be like almost biologically grown, where it's completely regenerative. And imagine if you could essentially like compost the product after you use it. I think it's the best to try to, I guess, close the loop on all these processes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I hope
Ruby.
that answered the.
Hey everybody. First of all, forgive me for being off camera. Yeah. And then secondly, forgive me, I got here late. So I've missed quite a bit of information. So my question might have been answered already, but I'll ask it anyway. So I work on a grassroots level with many community members, particularly in urban centers, and I'm working mainly with Black and Brown people. And my first question is, are you outreaching, right? So I'm going to paint a small picture, right? This idea of recycling, this idea of sustainability has lived in indigenous philosophy for millennia, right? So we're talking about African societies, Native American societies, that's part of the culture, right? This sort of sustainable world that we want to go to has already existed, and that has been systematically destroyed, right? But the thing is that these cultures have gifted the world these ideas of sustainability that are now being practiced again. And if we're going to talk about circles, how do we circle that back? So now a lot of knowledge, particularly about sustainable practices, are now living, right, in communities that are not where some of these ideas didn't even originate from, right? They're living in mainly affluent and white communities, right? So if I go to Scarsdale High School, they're doing the whole organic farming thing and like farm to table stuff, or if I'm going into Greenwich or if I'm going into Rye, these are centers in our county, Bedford Hills. These are white centers in the county that are practicing some things that didn't originate from that culture. And my question to you is, being, young folks, how will you export this back? How will you cycle this back into communities that have lost this knowledge and are suffering greatly because, right, these practices aren't living in their communities? So like, for instance, Mount Vernon, which is predominantly Black and brown, has some of the highest asthma rates, right? Because there's just a lack of tree canopy. The Hutch River that runs through it is, right, systematically polluted. There isn't a strong gardening or recycling or composting culture, right? But I know the people here and I know what their ancestry is. Their ancestry is what you're talking about right now, right? But that's gone. That's like, why is that missing? Where does it reside? And how do we bring it back? And so okay, so that's the story I painted. I'm going to go back to the question. Can you outreach, right? Like, you've got the resources, you're doing the work. Do you plan to just have it live there? And how do we spread this across the entire county? Again, I'm asking this question. I missed a chunk, so you might have already answered this, but hopefully you answered again.
Yeah, so students, like, I think some of your stuff was mostly school-based, like you were working within your schools. Have any of you had the opportunity to, like, I know, and just for everybody to know, but I met Annika because at her group at her school, Rye Country Day, reached out to WASS, realizing that their garbage was being incinerated in an EJ community and wanting to do something to educate their school and their community about the harms that were being done by burning the garbage. But I'm wondering if any of you have had an opportunity to outreach, like Ruby suggested, to some of the other communities who are like dealing with more of the environmental racism than your home communities might be. And no is a fine answer. Oh, go ahead, Michael.
So EcoTouch is currently working on fundraising to create more devices, and I participate in a program at my school where I tutor local underprivileged kids in science, and I've personally tried getting environmental education to be a bigger part of that program, but I know me and Ilaria's goals are to actually take our EcoTouch device and put them in schools with a high student to faculty ratio. So it can kind of act as sort of an assistant teacher in schools where kids might not have the access to an individualized conversation with the teacher. So that's kind of the way we're addressing that, but yeah.
Lila, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so just I know we're getting towards the end, so sort of in reciprocity and thank you. Really, I'm impressed with all of the presentations. It was really helpful. I mean, I I am an environmental attorney, and I used to do a lot of like smart growth and low impact development work. And I've also done a lot of green team stuff with my daughter's school. So really, I want to, and judged innovation and entrepreneurship contests and all. And really, you guys are great. So I want to ask you more of the obstacles, like really where have you found the most opposition or resistance to what you're doing? And you know, Michael, you're telling us funding round, and that's great. So I want to ask all of you kind of thank you for coming in, giving all of us this information. What can we do for all of you? Or what are the obstacles, or where do you want to go with these things next?
Anybody?
I think with us, there were a few, we mentioned earlier, with some, we had some obstacles, and I think just in general, it's very difficult for people to adjust to things that are different. So starting off, we had so many households that just couldn't grasp the concept of, you're just putting like apple cores, just fruits and vegetable scraps, things like that into your bin. So we would get so much plastic, people wouldn't be removing labels off of fruits and just little things like that. But we've just noticed that people have just adjusted so quickly, and that just gives me so much hope that in just a few months people they've seen what an impact this makes, and they've realized the little things that they can do that just makes this so much easier and so effective.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Leo.
This is less about the projects I just presented, but more so about me and Annika and two other students. Project we did last year with WASS about reducing waste in our school. I think that a big problem is people tend to care much less about things that they can't directly see or feel or are affected by. That's particularly why people tend to not care about the environment, just because so many of these problems tend to be so abstracted and tend to be global and far away. But and this ties into the strategy that we were talking about, where environmental justice is really a public health crisis. But at our school, when we were physically playing games with the students and showing them where to put trash and like actually having them like physically and tangibly work towards this goal, I think that's really where we started seeing the improvements, rather than like I'm talking about these more abstracted concepts. But yeah.
Awesome. All right. With that, I want to respect everyone's time, and we do have some action items that I want to get to. So let me share my screen so everyone can see. So we have that we're sharing again the same action item action step that we can take from last month's meeting, which is about air quality and reaching out to the New York State DEC, because the air permit for this trash incinerator here in Peekskill expired in 2021, and it has not been renewed, and there's a lot of foot dragging happening. And so if you follow that Action Network link, it will really easily let you put in your name and info and then generate the emails for you. Super simple, and it'll go to the governor, to several people within the DEC, and then our key targets here in Westchester, which are our county executive and deputy county executive, who are really the ones making decisions about our waste here in Westchester. So that's one. And then the other thing is that on September 25th, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation is having a meeting in Mount Vernon about their statewide community air monitoring initiative. So they did air quality monitoring here in Westchester, in Mount Vernon, in Yonkers, and I think New Rochelle was the other community. They did not do it in Peekskill, but they found as we all might expect, that it was predominantly Black and Brown communities that suffered with the most air pollution. And so they are presenting the data from their air monitoring, but also specifically they want feedback, questions and comments from the public. And so this is really an opportunity for us to join these communities in speaking out about the burdens that they're facing. And honestly, my message to DEC is going to be stop measuring a problem that we all know already exists and start acting to address the problem. Because I think the measuring is kind of a way out for them to not actually address the environmental racism that they're measuring. So Caitlin is probably dropping links to that Action Network link, and also to the link to the DEC that has the info about that air monitoring program and the meeting that's coming up. And then some future events that I want to make you aware of. Our allies, Peekskill 100, are having a tour of the Sustainable Waste Management or Sustainable Materials Management Industrial Compost Facility. So for folks who really want to see, I won't say how the sausage is made, I'll say how the compost is made. You can sign up for that tour. It's 1 hour on Saturday, October 19th. That facility is right outside of Peekskill in Cortland Manor, or in Cortland. So definitely follow that link to register. And I am already signed up, so I am going to go and see the facility where my compost goes. And then for our upcoming Zero Waste Task Force meetings for October, November, December, for October, our topic is Think Global, Act Local. So we're bringing in some allies that work on the state, national, and global level to reduce waste. And in November, we're going to have a pediatrician from Westchester Medical Center on to talk about the health effects of air pollution with a particular focus on children. So if you have questions about that, and definitely come. And then December, we do our wassailing holiday sort of one. So there will definitely be singing involved, but what exactly we'll discuss hasn't been determined yet. So thank you all for joining, and thank you to the student presenters. I'm very grateful. And I have to say, like, it really, I've been to Greenwich to meet folks there, and it's just very, it's great to know that even communities who aren't directly, they're not facing the harm that the incineration does, to know that you all are doing this work to reduce what you're sending here to Peekskill. Definitely it feels like you're doing it for my kids and my neighbors. So thank you all so much for coming out tonight and for spending time, and thank you to the students for your work, and thank you to attendees for your thoughtful questions. And I look forward to seeing you all next month. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your evening.
Thanks, you
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you.